All right, don't mind the mess. This is the second major step in making sure you've got your scope and scope rings mounted properly. So I've got a level here on the rifle itself, and I match that level to this level on the barrel. And now I can take this level off, and then when I go to mount the scope and the rings, I can find a spot on the scope itself that is going to be level, and I can make that adjustment so that it then matches the level on the front. Pretty simple. Okay, when you go to mount your rings, I suggest using some thread locker. And I've found that, and after you've shaken it up a little bit, one thing that helps is to put the thread locker in the hole where it's going to go instead of on the screws themselves, and just making sure that you don't have any residue kind of around the sides that's going to spread. So you can kind of see it's kind of made a little bubble there. And then when the screw actually goes in, it'll take that little bit that's there, because you don't need a lot. You really don't need a lot. And that'll just kind of coat the threads as it screws in there. Instead of, if you have the thread locker on the screw and then you're putting it through whatever, you're screwing down to it, it just ends up getting the thread locker over everything, and it's a lot more messy. So that's one way to do it. Keep things a little bit more tidy. Okay, if you're mounting rings on a Picatinny style rail, notice there's usually a little bit of play, and the placement is going to matter. So if you kind of imagine that the recoil of the rifle is going to shove the rifle that way, which is going to force the scope to go more or less forward in relation to the rifle. Imagine the rifle's pulling out from underneath the scope. You got some physics here at play that the scope's going to want to stay in place while the rifle's going. Obviously, in practice, the scope stays attached to the rifle. But so we want the scope basically shoved as far forward in the Picatinny rail placement as you can get it. So I've already got these set and predetermined. I've already determined my eye relief, those kind of things where I want the scope. So my next step is just getting it ready here. And I would leave these rings loose on top, just enough that I can get it to make sure that both of these rings are as far forward as I can get them before I crank down these screws. Okay, so I've got the two ring sets. They are as far forward as they can go in the Picatinny slots. I've got the two bolts, the two screws are hand tight right now. So my next step, and I should say I've also got the little bit of thread locker already in there on the threads. So I'm ready to tighten it down. So I've got my handy dandy little torque wrench here, and I've got it set to 30 inch-pounds, which is what it says on the rings. Manufacturers usually will list their specs for the torque settings, and you can notice that the ring caps are going to be a different torque than the base screws. So that's the next step, get it torqued down properly. Okay, so my base screws are torqued down. I've got thread locker in the bottom of the ring caps, where the screws are going to go in, and now I'm ready to get these in place. I've already determined where I want the scope in relation to my eye relief. I like, where possible, to have the rings centered on the tubes, and then I'm ready to torque that down. and then it'll be more or less done. I should add, where's my level? And this is where, once the screws are starting to get torqued down, I can make sure that this is level in the with the bubble, and that matches the other end, which, as you can see, it's shifted a little bit as I've moved this. Whoop. I get that back to level again. I match that level, and then I can torque down the screws. Okay, so it's important as I'm torquing down the screws that I maintain the gaps on both sides need to be even. I'm watching for that, and I'm watching to keep my level. And once that's done, the scope is properly mounted. And then at the very last, I'll add a little bit of fingernail polish, a little dab on in front of the rings, just so I have a witness mark in case something ever does come loose. And I can put a little dab on each of the screws, and if it ever breaks free, then I know something worked its way loose. That's it.